Let's start it up.
You name it. So if you do have a question, feel free to request, and Jen will kick us off with an update.
I mean, one, I know I haven't really been coming to these weekly community spaces just due to meeting scheduling and all of that stuff. So really stoked to be here with you all today. Um, there's a lot like currently happening. So, gosh, what was the last update that we gave? Um, Number one, we're starting to migrate a lot of DApps over to the new UX UI. You guys saw that with EverSwap and us launching EverRevoke on the new UX UI, which is fantastic. I do know that there were some bugs flagged to the dev team, so the dev team is sorting and working through that. We have started the background work for EverLaunch, which is really exciting. If you didn't know, that's going to be the next DApp that we come out with. Um, what else?
Yeah, you touched upon the liquidity, V1 liquidity, the process that was going to be deployed, and obviously Suresh has been buying back Rise tokens since that day, and you can keep track of that thanks to the awesome app on Telegram that Fish has put together. This little bot that keeps a track of the V1 liquidity wallet and the purchase of EverRise. So, I don't know. I don't actually have the figure right now in front of me. And also you mentioned the merch store that you're working on that as well.
Yeah, I think we should actually be able to get the merch store back up and running in the next 2 weeks. Unfortunately, there were just some unforeseen technical difficulties with coin payments. So, very much looking forward to that. I think with the merch store, we will actually enable for people to buy with fiat, which is really exciting. Because I know for some it could be a pain to, get the extra USDT, extra BNB, extra ETH, whatever it is, however the people were paying. So that's new. Ben recently updated the stats page to show some additional stats, which is really awesome. It's just been, what I will say is it's been a lot of work over the last couple of weeks of things just happening within the background. We're tightening down on what the roadmap looks like and what the future of EverRise looks like, working on how we're going to start positioning this in a way that's like much more simple, especially for folks who aren't in the crypto space to understand. A couple of onboardings have been happening recently. I think we have an onboarding today. Am I right, TJ?
We do. We have enhanced.
I would never have guessed it, judging by some of these icons that I see in the audience.
Big shout out
just
to
looked down.
all the globes below. But yes, we have enhanced onboarding at 3 o'clock, and we will be hosting an ecosystem space. That will be myself, Jason, and Peter, and we will learn about the enhanced ecosystem and welcome them to our ecosystem.
Absolutely. It's been very busy, Jen. Obviously, we're in development now on our next DApp, which is, of course, EverLaunch, which I'm really, really excited about. I think that's going to be a game changer, in terms of actually giving projects the best possible chance to start off without having fear of, a massive portion of their tokens being used up as a payment, and also across the 5 chains with access to all of our DApps that we've got out right now. I think it's brilliant, and I know the community are also excited for that, especially when the updated roadmap was made. What's that, Jen? What's that?
Well, speaking of EverLaunch, I don't know if we've talked about this yet, but when we do bring EverLaunch to market for broader use, we'll also be bringing EverLock simultaneously. It's very key and important for us to launch the Launchpad along with the liquidity locker hand in hand. So that's really...
Just going to drop the mic there, Jen.
So it's not one DApp that's coming, it'll be 2.
DApps. All right, 2 DApps for the price of 1. And of course, then we've got just the one other DApp after that, which is the most, one of the most anticipated DApps, which is, of course, EverWallet. And then I guess it'll be time for me to update the roadmap again at that point when we get to that stage. So, but there's lots and lots of things that are going on, like Jen said, behind the scenes. You know, lots of things that we want to talk about. We can't talk about just yet, but yeah, exciting times right now. Very important times for the company and for the project. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to the future.
And for those wondering, EverLaunch is EverSale. EverSale is what we called it for the first year, but you know, we reconsidered the branding of it, and EverLaunch speaks to itself. So it will be EverLaunch.
Yeah, it was funny. I remember I was talking to Suresh about this just on Telegram. I think it was in staff chat or something. But it was like ever sales started because of like the idea of like DX sale, pink sale. But then we realized, you know, the more and more we talked about the D app, the more and more we talked about our future roadmap, like the key part was this is ultimately a launch pad, and we wanted the name to be reflective of that. So we started there was like a point in time where it was either or. You could just write Eversale in staff chat, and then someone would be like, oh, like, yeah, the EverLaunch platform. Like, we were very much using them interchangeably. But very, very excited to get that out to market.
Yeah, launch is definitely a more appropriate term, I think, judging
Agreed.
on what's been designed by the dev team.
And what I love about what you said, Jay, is you're going to need to update the roadmap again. And that is because I say we, but the developers continue to deliver and build and deliver and build and deliver and build, and it just doesn't stop. So the fact that you need to update the roadmap again, and we're just over a year old, that still feels surreal to say, is incredible.
We're going to need a bigger roadmap.
We will. I don't currently see any hands raised on Twitter Spaces. I'm sorry. If anyone does have a question, wants to come up and say anything, please do request. Jason, do we have anything on YouTube?
Not yet. We've got Hakuna waving, saying hello. And also, guys, if you've got any questions on YouTube, feel free to put them in the chat and I'll read them out for the rest of the panel.
Amazing. We actually have Seema coming up on Twitter Spaces. Hey, Seema.
Hey, how's it going, bro?
Doing very well, my friend. How are you?
I haven't speak here for a long time, so how's your sleep? That's the first thing I'm going to ask.
You haven't asked us about our sleep schedule in a little bit. I remember.
Yeah. I haven't spoken a lot. So let's update that. How's your sleep? Are you sleeping enough?
I slept last night. I didn't sleep the night before though. Not EverRise related. It's I got engaged yesterday and I was very nervous for pretty much 48 hours beforehand. Yesterday I ate no food. I drank no water. I was a mess, and then did it, and I slept like a baby last night, which you'll be glad to hear.
So now you are ready to continue building.
Always, my friend. Always building.
That's what I love to hear. So I have let's say, some kind of proposition.
Sure.
What do you say about that? You offer to people who migrated from V1 to V2. So those are the users, those are the investors that are here from the very beginning. Can you make something to offer them, like they can stack the amount of tokens that they transferred from V1 to V2 in an amount of time for, let's say, 5 years, maybe, or 7 years, like some kind of special offer for them.
Now,
My English is a little bit rusty, so I hope that you understand me.
Yeah, I get that. I understand what you're asking, and I know that this hasn't been the first time this has been suggested, and I think even I've mentioned it to Ben in the past, like, oh, could we do, like, potentially could we do, certain privileges for certain NFTs, such as, maybe an extra staking term length, or maybe even a discount on EverSwap. The answer is yes, we could, but again, we have to be very careful with, certainly not disadvantaging portions of our community purely because they were not a part of the V1 token. Again, these things could be looked at, and I'm sure the dev team are well aware of these ideas. I think Suresh and the leadership team would obviously have to kind of balance that out, but in theory it could happen. Do I think it's fair? I would be hesitant to do something like that personally, without giving a chance for people that are currently into Rise now an opportunity to also maybe collect an NFT that also gives them that ability to get that privilege as well. Obviously there are other things that you could do, that are exclusive to V1, which are not involving a monetary or a token advantage, but maybe more in terms of maybe merch that we could do that's specific to a V1 holder or something like that. Again, Jen, TJ, if you want to add anything to that, feel free.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to EverRise, in terms of rewarding early adopters, we did that with NFTs. But when it comes to the token itself, and if we were to give benefits to those who were in early as opposed to those who potentially, invested in the project now, in my opinion, it just would not be fair, and it might be off-putting to a lot of people, knowing that early adopters have a benefit, or early holders would have a benefit compared to those who potentially, go to the EverRise website right now, look at our white paper, really, believe in this protocol and decide to invest. So I don't think that
of course, DJ, early community members would have accumulated reflections. They would have accumulated rewards.
Exactly.
Anyway, so they would have had an advantage regardless. So to give it a further advantage, I don't think is morally or ethically in line with how we kind of want to run the project.
Right, and the way our staking system is set up is that it rewards long-term believers as opposed to early investors, and that's how I believe every project should run. If you are building a solid product, and what you're putting out is first to market and it has adoption, you are going to over time add new investors to the project, and that's totally normal. But I don't think that it would be fair again to reward V1 holders extra on top of what they've already received to date. As Jason mentioned, you did receive rewards. There were NFTs, many Kraken buybacks, et cetera, et cetera. So moving forward,
good question though.
Yeah, very, very good question. But moving forward, I think we're pretty firm on our stance that we reward long-term believers as opposed to early investors.
Let me then just simplify my question. Will we have the period of staking for 5 years then, somewhere in the future?
I think it's definitely possible. We just added staking terms of 24 and 36 months, and that's been pretty widely popular, as we can see by our average staking term. So I imagine that, I do see us adding longer terms as we move down the line.
Well, Jen, I mean, if enough people ask for it, we will listen, and
always.
Yeah, if like large parts of the community were like, guys, we really love what you're building here. We would love it if we could stake for longer. And enough people came to me, the mods, the rest of the team saying this, and in AMAs, then certainly it would be something we would look at and we can implement. But I think 3 years is a long time anyway, for people to commit, to a project. So again, I would say it's always open. It's always open to being extended, but we'll have to wait and see on that.
Okay, and can I have one more question, please, for Jen?
Absolutely.
And that's my final question. Jen, when
Yes.
F1 commercial?
When it makes sense for the target audience and demographic that we're going after. And I'm not too sure that now is the time for that. Like, obviously, if we look at kind of the macroeconomics of the space and what's going on, not only within the crypto space, but also with outside the crypto space, we're seeing inflation across the world. We're seeing people start to tighten down and get ready for some sort of massive economic downturn. And like, if you're here in the States, there's been a lot of talks about recession and all of that stuff. And I think right now, really, the key thing when it comes to our funds and how we deploy them, it's making sure that we have the runway to build for the next 2 years. It's making sure that we have the ability to continue to hire new talent when and if we need. And, you know, as opposed to spending $250,000, $500,000 on, you know, these large marketing activations where there's no clear return. Because it's like, if we do an F1 commercial, can I say that that F1 commercial drives more adoption of our DApps? Does that F1 commercial bring more devs to our platform? Like right now, I don't think that's the move. So maybe, you know, in time when it makes sense, we'll look at doing things like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so F1 commercial in 2 years. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sima. Always great to hear your voice, my friend.
Hope you've been well.
Bringing up Scott.
GH in YouTube, that is being looked at. Yes, that'll be changed.
Scott is still connecting, I see. Don't see any
Akuna's
other...
asked a question.
Okay.
Actually, no, if he's actually asked a question more over such talking about the NFTs, could give value to the NFTs if people wanted to buy them, to hold them, and be able to stake longer. That's a clever way to do it. So he's just basically, again, kind of talking about how NFTs could be implemented in terms of staking periods. I like it. Again, that'll be down to Suresh and the team to decide whether it's something we want to look at.
Absolutely. Well said, Jay. Hey, Scott.
Hey, what's up? And congratulations, TJ. Well done, man.
I appreciate that. How you doing?
Good. I know it's the official AMA, but it's just a personal congrats, and it'll be the best thing you've ever done. So, hey, Jen. Hey, Jason.
Scott.
How you guys doing?
Hey, Scott. Doing good, man. Doing really good.
Good. Listen, I got a dear friend listening in on YouTube right now, and he's looking at putting some hard-earned money into EverRise for the first time, and he has already done some DYOR. I was wondering if you could, just for a first-time listener like him, just break down staking, if you don't mind, just to take a minute and do that. You know, the 1x and then 36 months to 36x, so on and so forth. He's listening in. It'd be great. I'd appreciate it. His name's Brett, so I'll just call him up.
So I think I can talk a little bit about how our staking system is designed, and then TJ, Jason, feel free to jump in. But essentially what happens is well, first let's zoom out to how the RISE token functions, right? So there is a 6% buy, sell, and transfer tax for the RISE token. And that 6% can be broken down into a 2% project sustainability fee, which goes to the team, and that funnel that like fuels operations, development, marketing, etc. And then there's a 4% buyback fee, aka our liquidity reserves. So 4% of every single transaction that occurs on our decentralized exchanges actually gets stored within the smart contract of each chain, depending on what chain you purchased on. And that is known as the Kraken reserves, as the community likes to call it, or the Kraken. We refer to it as our liquidity reserves, because essentially what happens within the EverRise protocol is after a certain amount of blocks are minted on the blockchain, right, which happens by transactions. Each blockchain has, different amount of transactions before the next block is minted. But after a certain threshold of blocks are minted on a blockchain, a buyback is triggered. When a buyback's triggered, we're taking the funds that are stored within the smart contract, purchasing RISE off the open market, and then sending the RISE that is purchased to stakers. So that's like the first kind of key mechanism to understand when it comes to staking RISE. So then let's say, you have maybe $1,000 worth of RISE tokens and you want to stake them. You would go into our NFT staking lab, and when you stake your RISE tokens, you have the opportunity to choose between a couple of different staking periods. It's 1 to 12 months and additional terms of 24 and 36 months. And these provide a weight for your stake. So if I staked my RISE holdings for 12 months, I would have a reward weight of times 12. And essentially, when you stake your tokens and you choose your term, it generates an on-chain NFT. And this NFT is tethered to your staked RISE, which means, let's say, TJ needed or wanted to send me his NFT stake for Rise. If he were to transfer that NFT to me, his staked Rise tokens would automatically be transferred to me as well. And I would start accruing rewards based off of the buyback system. So I'll pause there. That's very, very high level, just like breakdown of the staking mechanism. Does that make sense?
Jen, that was perfect. I already got a text from him. I'm not in his presence right now. You're shooting out a big thank you. So well done. Really, really well done. So thanks for that.
Yeah, of course.
This is a really smart guy. He's in mortgages. He's in that industry and profession. And like I said, he's been doing his own research. He asked me what originally attracted me when I was doing my own research months and months ago. And my very first answer was transparency, just because of what we're getting today, like on these Tuesday AMAs. And then number two was Suresh. If I'm not mistaken, he developed the buyback, and then it's been copied over and over and over, correct?
Correct.
Yep.
The buyback was brought to cryptocurrency by Suresh when we launched EverRise in June 2021. It has since been forked thousands of times. It's become a very popular tokenomic. But, if we get down to the roots of the buyback in crypto, it started right here at EverRise.
Exactly. Listen, I appreciate that. Thanks for getting back to basics on that. And I'm hoping he'll join the community. And if he does, I'll call him out one day. So, all right.
Yeah.
Love it.
Thanks,
All right.
Scott.
You guys have a great day. I'm going to drop down, just listen.
Thanks,
No
Tom.
worries.
I appreciate it, my friend.
Before we move on, because of that, I think that was just only really the technical high level mechanism. Jason or TJ, do you want to talk about the rewards and like how that's distributed based off of how long you stake for?
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of the rewards, so Jen mentioned weighted value. So there are 14 different staking terms. There's 1 to 12 months, and then there is a 24-month and a 36-month option. What that comes down to is if I'm staked for 36 months, for example, I stake 1,000 Rise tokens for 36 months on the Avalanche chain. Jason stakes 1,000 Rise for 1 month on the Avalanche chain. Every time that there is a buyback done by the Kraken, those funds will be distributed to stakers on that chain proportionately to the weighted value. So in this case, I would get 36 times the reward amount that Jason would receive because I would be staked for 36 months and he in turn is staked for 1 month. That's how the reward system kind of breaks down, and that happens every single time that there is a buyback on the chain that you are staked on.
And then traditionally, if one buyback is triggered, it does and can trigger cross-chain buybacks, which is pretty cool. So the system's completely integrated. In addition, the reason why we chose to utilize an NFT mechanism for staking was because we wanted to provide a staking platform that actually gave users a ton of flexibility. So number one, you can withdraw rewards at any point in time and sell them if you choose. You could also withdraw the rewards and restake them and continue to earn rewards upon rewards if that's also what you choose. You are able to actually unstake early. There is a penalty based off of when you unstake within your term. There's more information about that on our site. But in addition to that, the NFT stakes, because it's tethered to the stake Rise, there's a ton of flexibility here. You're able to split the NFT. So let's say you had an NFT stake that had like $10,000 worth of staked Rise. And let's say you wanted to increase the staking term, but you're like, I don't want to do it with my whole bag because I staked my whole bag already. You would actually be able to split that NFT stake however you want. Let's say 50% for this example. And then it would generate 2 new NFT stakes that are also now tethered to your new staked Rise amounts. And then with one of them, you can increase the staked amount. You can increase the staked term. So it provides a ton of flexibility there. In addition, you're actually able to bridge your NFT stakes from chain to chain. So let's say you staked on BNB, but you're all like, I am really loving the Ethereum ecosystem. I want to move over to Ethereum. You could bridge your NFT stake from BNB to ETH, and now you'll be staked on ETH. Or you can say ETH gas is too expensive for me. I'm over this. I want to move to Matic and stake on the Polygon network. You would also be able to do that with the NFT stakes.
The NFT staking system is incredibly intricate.
There's like a whole
Yeah.
45-minute video on our YouTube about
I
how
was
to
about
do
to
it.
say, there's tons of information that we're kind of just skimming over because it is extremely complex. If you do want more information, head over to the EverRise YouTube page, which I'm assuming you're on already, and you can see a video there from Jen talking about the NFT staking lab for about 30 minutes. Very easy to watch. It is not a 30-minute bore. There are text prompts on the screen. Jen's always fun to watch, so you'll learn a lot about it because there is nothing in the space like it at the moment. Great answers, guys. I don't see
Yeah,
any
that was a
other...
really good answer. Sorry, I'm just putting something together very quickly because for what we've said in the chat, TJ.
Awesome. I don't see any other hands raised on Twitter Spaces. I'm going to check.
Yeah, I've got a question here from Akuna. Can you explain about what Ben told us about the Seifu warning on DEX tools regarding the buy-sell in the same transaction being prevented by the contract? So let me just repeat that. We have, so the Seifu warning on DEX tools regarding the buy and sell in the same transaction and why our contract prevents that and why is the warning not valid. Do you guys have the answer? If not, I can read it out.
No, you go for it.
Let me find it. Give me 1 second. So yeah, we don't have a. Here we go. The only way to buy and sell in the same block is via contract automation. Can't do it. You can't do it that fast manually. It has to be via an automation. And the only reason to be buying and selling in the same block is to be taking advantage of a token or doing an MEV, which is a maximal extractable value on Ethereum. Neither of which adds value to the ecosystem, but instead extracts value from it. Hence why the buy and sell, simultaneous buy and sell in the same block is prevented. Sandwich attacks are common and they're a risk highlighted by auditors. So this is a security measure that we've taken. The Rise contract doesn't allow buying and selling in the same block by the same wallet to prevent sandwich attacks and recursive bot attacks. Their simulator is probably so that is the reason why that, and also Dex Screener comes up with a warning saying that you can't sell in the same block, and that is essentially why, because it uses the same block to test buys and sells. So if you get a warning on Dex Screener, that's the reason why it pops up, because it's only checking the one block, and a human being can't do a buy and sell in the one block. I hope that answers your question. And if you've got any other further questions, feel free to reach out to me, and I can forward you over to information from Ben. All right. Thank you for that question. Did you get that, guys? The technical.
Yes.
Question. Yeah.
And not something I would be able to answer on my own personally, but I'm glad we have Ben for that.
I'm glad we got Ben as well for that. Thank you, Hakuna, for bringing that up. It's a very important that we understand why that warning pops up. Hello to the people just joining in. So Honky Tonk says the ability to trigger the buyback from a hodler. When will that be live? And what dApp would you perform this function on? So obviously they've read the blog post, Jen. Can we say more? We can't really say much more at the moment.
Sorry, Jason. Can you repeat the question?
So the ability to trigger the buyback from a hodler. I'm assuming he's meaning hodler NFT. When will that be live, and what dApp would you perform this function on?
So I don't want to release any details about this yet, but we have a path forward. Right now, the function would actually occur on not EverStake, the NFT staking lab, but still TBD. Wait until we have an official announcement about it, because it needs to be deployed and we need to see it live.
Good answer. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. We said so. Just be patient. We'll have more information about that very soon. Lee Hopwood comes up with a good question. And I'm sure TJ, Jen, you'll be able to answer this. Last week in the AMA, TJ and the gang attacked the existence of meme coins, giving no real utility, just pump and dump gambles, which they are, and I agree. So why have so many of them gone on to be on EverRise? Because
So, I mean,
well, I think ultimately, you know, when we made EverRise, it was to try to prevent that, right? It was try to mitigate that in some extent and provide an alternative for like contract security that provides transparency to a community. Because previously, like the only real way that you were able to achieve that was by renouncing your contract. And unfortunately, when you do that, it can create headaches down the line, especially as like some of these projects, you know, they may start from a meme space, but then they decide to build metaverses, they decide to build wallets, they decide to build all these utilities for their communities, which is great. But a lot of times, you know, being in the micro cap space where projects are under $250 million market cap, there is some meme stuff that goes on, and that's totally fine. Ultimately, what we wanted to do was provide a platform and the tools for any project, regardless if it's considered a meme project or if it's a blue chip project that's building. We wanted to provide them the tools and infrastructure to have an alternative to contract renouncement in a way that could build accountability and trust within their communities. Ultimately, we do require that anyone who submits to EverRise, their smart contract has at least been audited. We do an internal audit of the code ourselves to make sure that, you know, there's no like standout malicious code or code that looks irregular. And that's normally like a quick scan that we do internally. And so if these are the projects that are choosing to leverage and adopt the platform now, then that's fine. We're going to continue to expand out to our audience and try to like capture new developers that are coming into Web3 and providing these tools and solutions as a standard. But we all have to start somewhere. And, you know, if this is where adoption is happening, and then I don't really see a problem with that.
Yeah, and also we're not here to pick and choose, guys. Like we have strict requirements when it comes to what we expect of projects using EverRise. If they fulfill those requirements, we're not going to gatekeep people kind of wanting to use our services. You know, at the end of the day, I would argue that, you know, meme tokens that are genuinely trying to, you know, build a community and trust and transparency, EverRise is something which I would be screaming at them to use. And certainly any token that recognizes themselves to be a meme token that wants to use EverRise, hell yeah. You know, I'll any project that wants to use EverRise, I'm certainly not going to look any differently over a utility project, a meme project onboarding onto EverRise. I think this space, you know, when it comes to governance in this space, we have big problems with centralization, points of failure that need to be addressed. Time and time again, I go into Twitter spaces and a community has been on the receiving end of developers dipping their hands into the liquidity cookie jar. I'm sick of it. They're sick of it. This is a solution that exists right now that doesn't require much work to implement from a technical point of view. And what I can say is it's a much needed DApp that more and more projects are going to need going forward. And I don't care what genre of project you are. If you're looking to build a community and contribute to this space and use EverRise, absolutely, you're setting a good example for future projects that are following you. That's how I see it.
Yeah, well said. I want to, you know, clarify my stance on meme coins. I don't think I ever attacked them, but what I did say is, you know, I'm a fan of meme coins for the sense that some of them, you know, like let's look at the big ones here, Doge, SHIB. They are great tools to get new retail investors into the space who then dive deeper when they're in it, and we'll look at the fundamentals of Bitcoin. We'll look at the fundamentals of Ethereum, you know, hopefully look into some DeFi projects. I think meme coins are great for that. The only thing that, you know, I caution people about meme coins is a lot of them, as we've seen, are rug pulls. And at EverRise, we hate rug pulls, and Everown is the solution to that. So as Jason said, as Jen said, any token, whether it's a blue chip or a meme coin that wants to hop onto Everown to protect their community and so much more, we are absolutely here for it.
And also, there's meme tokens that are like unique, but there's also meme tokens that are copying and kind of going off the back of someone else's design, someone else's idea, and they're just basically trying to kind of, kind of capture part of that target audience. So obviously there's low effort. There's high effort and low effort teams when it comes to the meme token space, and you can generally identify them. So yeah, I do like the question, because obviously, you are asking about, you are provoking a conversation that does need to be said. I mean, we don't take any preference about any of the projects that we onboard into our DApps. We have stringent checks, and we make sure that we perform due diligence before, of course. But we support anyone that wants to onboard onto Everown and any of our DApps. So thank you for the question.
What's really interesting is, like, I'm not going to name any project names, but a lot of these projects are on ETH. Like, over the last kind of big hike when we saw Bitcoin at its all-time high, what was booming on the ETH side was we saw a surgence of meme tokens. We saw a surgence of anime tokens. And, there were a couple that really gained large communities, and it was all very, very much meme-ish up until what I would say maybe a month or 2 months ago, when a lot of these projects started rebranding, started being like, hey, we're going to bring this to market, started adding in utilities. And it's like, if you would have told me that that's what they were going to do and that was the plan when they first launched, like, I wouldn't have seen it, because the brands are completely unrecognizable compared to what they were when they first started. So
yeah, I think a big part of that, Jen, too, is we were in a much different place this time last year when all these meme tokens were launching. A lot of them have died out, and the few that did survive kind of needed to incorporate utility in order to still survive in this market that we're in right now, in these market conditions. So, we do see meme projects that have been around for a while that are still here, and as Jen said, completely rebranded and are now pushing out products because they have a community behind them. Their community believes in the team, and there's no point of letting that fall on deaf ears. So, kudos to has kind of taken that meme culture and turned it into a real utility project. I have tremendous amounts of respect for that.
Absolutely. Hands up?
I don't see any hands up at the moment. We did have Mav up here, but it looks like he dropped off. How are we looking on YouTube and other channels? I'm going to check Telegram.
Yeah, just check there. I've just sent something in the Telegram. I'm going to quickly check YouTube now. It makes sense. Thank you ever so much, Lee, for listening through that answer. So people in YouTube are essentially answering the same question there. Nothing fresh, guys. If you've got any questions, please feel free to put it into the YouTube.
Jason, do you want to talk about our new daily giveaway that we're going to be doing?
Absolutely. Why not? This is a good one. So, guys, starting from, I believe, probably tomorrow. Starting from tomorrow, we'll be doing a daily giveaway of 100,000 Rise. 100,000 Rise staked for a period of 12 months. You will be eligible to win these Rise staked NFTs by following the conditions in the tweet that TJ is going to tweet out very shortly. We essentially ask people to follow EverRise on Twitter and follow Titan. We ask you to tag 3 friends using hashtag EverRise, hashtag EverRevoke, and also to post a screenshot of using EverRevoke on that day. And I know that we were asked if we sleep easily at night. I certainly sleep easy at night knowing that all of my tokens are revoked and I'm staked comfortably for a period of, I think it's like over 2.5 years. So happy days. And this is something which is, again, going to help drive, the language of education on socials. We want to get the community out there talking about EverRevoke, the benefits of EverRevoke, and also we've got some other graphics that you may see floating around on socials as well, which I'll encourage people to reuse and to kind of tag, comment on other people's posts and retweet. So there we go. TJ, let me know when that tweet goes out, and we'll get
going out soon.
No problem.
Tweet is going out soon.
No worries. So keep an eye out for that tweet, guys. And Monty Bags, we can't say anything about that at the moment. So yes, and happy people congratulating you, of course, TJ.
Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate it. I really do. Hey, FOMO.
Hello, my friends.
How are you?
Thank you very much. I hope everybody is fine.
I'm doing good.
We're doing wonderful, my friend.
Beautiful. TJ, I want to say congratulations, my brother. By the way.
And I appreciate that.
I'm so happy for you.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Really. Yeah, I want to see the fruits in the next 1, 2, 3 years, hopefully.
I think we can guarantee that. I'm pretty sure. I think.
Cool.
Yeah.
I love that. Cool. I have just a question.
Yes.
I had a tweet. I saw a tweet from Suresh, and he said this OG NFTs, right?
Yeah.
They will be. In the future. They will have some priority or something like this. But I couldn't find this now. Man, you can. Yeah.
I think that was just Suresh talking about when we were coming up on 1 year, and I think it's the fact that we're planning on being around for many, many years to come, and that first NFT will probably have some value, whether monetary or just sentimental value. Yeah, I think that's kind of what we were looking at.
That's just what I wanted to ask. If you are planning something with the OG NFTs.
Not currently, and if we were, we would probably be surprising you with something along those lines.
I wish you a very, very, very beautiful week. I love you all, and that's all what I want to say. And TJ, enjoy your life with your wife.
Thank you, my friend.
Yeah. All right.
We
take care, guys, ladies.
Thank
bye.
you. Have a good one, FOMO.
Bye.
Bye.
I have a question from Discord that was asked 2 days ago. Will the tokens that are being matched for the buyback V1 liquidity come out of the Rise liquidity? No. These tokens will be coming from Suresh himself. I think this is something that we've iterated a lot, and I'll just go ahead and reiterate it now. But the way we look at liquidity pools is liquidity pools belong to the community. Liquidity is there to help stabilize the price. Liquidity is not to be utilized to pay for operations, pay for development, pay for marketing. There's a reason why it's called liquidity, and it serves a very distinct purpose within any digital asset economy, and we're not planning ever on touching it for anything other than liquidity. So the tokens
Sorry, Jane, carry on.
No, go ahead, Jason. I see your face. Jason's just like, oh my goodness.
Unfortunately, it's becoming acceptable in this space for liquidity to be used for business operations and costs. And I just want to make it absolutely clear that it's just unacceptable. It's stealing, in my view. And any project that does that and that doesn't come out first and let their communities know about it, I hold a very strong opinion against those types of projects. The liquidity is not a plaything for developers to use to kind of for their own purposes. It's not a piggy bank. I tweeted out about it. My pinned tweet right now. The liquidity pool is not a developer's piggy bank. And if you're in a project where teams are dipping into liquidity to pay for things, you need to ask yourself, is that the type of governance that I want to be in right now in DeFi? Is that decentralized? Because for me, it's disgusting. It's
Well-
absolutely disgusting, and that's my opinion, and not the that's just my opinion. And again, if it's part of the roadmap and it's out there for everyone to see, it's different. But if they're doing it behind the backs of the community, that's disgusting. I want to make that absolutely clear. That's what I mean by that. So when it comes to Rise, liquidity is for the holders. Period.
It's literally to give people liquidity if they choose to sell, so that way if they're selling, they actually are able to get something out of it. And I think if we, like, even if we were, Jason feels passionately about liquidity, like the entire EverRise team does, but like, let's take our emotions out of it for 1 second. If there is a liquidity pool that has like 2 million in liquidity within it, and maybe there's like an auto LP function where liquidity continues to get added to the pool. If businesses are choosing to utilize that as a revenue stream for paying for business expenses, and the revenue that they're bringing in on a consistent basis if the revenue they're bringing in on a consistent basis isn't greater than what they're continually drawing out, you're going to run into a problem where your liquidity pool will not be able to support your community. You're going to experience a ton of price volatility. And also, like, ultimately, I think, like, whether it's a DeFi project, whether they want to call themselves companies or not, a lot of these projects are looked at as companies. And if we want to continue to build, if we collectively, as people who are working on the ground in DeFi, want to push for product innovation, want to push for mass adoption of this space, then like ultimately you as a project or a company need to have other revenue streams apart from pooling from liquidity or adding a tax to your token. Like, that's just at the end of the day what it is. Because if projects keep pooling liquidity to pay for business operations and expenses, there's going to be a point where there's not going to be any liquidity left. The amount of money that's coming into the liquidity pool isn't going to be greater than what they're drawing out. Like, it's incredibly concerning, especially when you start to draw out, it adds up. Like, you pull out 20 grand here to pay for, some marketing service. You pull out another 50 grand to pay for a YouTuber. You pull out, like, it just starts to astronomically add up, and the next thing you know, you're left with a liquidity pool that is pretty much not even liquidity, and the price volatility is insane, and you have basically been rugged, because then you go to sell and there's not going to be any liquidity for you to pull out when you sell.
And you certainly open yourself up to a lot of accusations in the process of doing that.
Yeah. I know all projects have their own regulatory strategies, and some are flying fine completely without regulatory strategies right now. But I guarantee you, when regulations come down, it's probably going to be somewhere in the danger zone of if you're utilizing your project's liquidity to pay for things. I don't know what the SEC is thinking. Quite frankly, none of us do. But like, people should, if they're very serious about building long-term in this space, be asking themselves that. Their teams should be having conversations around that. If they're trying to utilize liquidity, it's like, will this hold up in court as a defense in 10 years? If God forbid that's something that happens,
This is why Everone right now, although it's not had widespread adoption, this is why solutions like Everone are so important. This is why I believe Everone is before its time. It's ahead of its time. It's technology that needs to be implemented into this space. Why? To safeguard projects, to safeguard investors, to hold that generated liquidity behind lock and key, behind a community vote where it's decentralized in nature. And I swear, like, we're gonna need to see these types of solutions in the future for 100%. You think that regulatory bodies and agencies aren't looking at what's going on right now in DeFi with a magnifying glass? Of course they are. They know what's going on. They know how much money's being filtered out, siphoned out. Yeah. LP is a big no-no for me. I'm very passionate about that. You may have found out, you might be able to tell in my voice how passionate I am about it. It makes me sick. It really does, because people come to this space, they haven't got a lot of money, and they just want to have a chance. at making it in their life. They just want to have a chance, you know, and this space is about that, about giving investors the opportunity to find projects that they believe in, that are building utilities for themselves and for others. And when they find that, they should have every right to look forward to what DeFi has to provide. When you see what happens with projects that have got teams that are taking liquidity behind the scenes, communities normally find out about it after the fact, you know, not during the fact. And it's all on the blockchain for those to see. And I've joined so many spaces where reams of community members are just basically asking why is this money leaving the liquidity? We don't know. We don't know why it's been, you know, there's no answers provided. And that's what makes me feel sick. And that's what holds us back as a whole community, not just EverRise, as a whole community. That's what holds us back for wider adoption, for people taking this space seriously, quite honestly. You know, this is why Everown and DAOs and things like that in nature are very important. And, you know, I don't want to keep going on about it. So,
well, I'll just add like I have two last thoughts that I wanted to add to that, Jason. Like, number one, anytime anyone is financially compromised in this space as a result of a bad actor or a really negligent project lead or developer, anytime someone is financially compromised by one of those parties because they're taking advantage of the underdeveloped infrastructure within this space, it hurts the legitimacy of Web3 as a whole. And it also starts to really highlight the problems that we have, not necessarily with blockchain security, but just like security of dApps, more security and infrastructure. It highlights these problems, and these are two of the key problems that will cause user adoption to slow down. And we've seen it. There's a reason why only, 5% of the world is currently invested in cryptocurrencies, and even less are actually full DeFi. So there's a long way to go. There's a lot of work ahead of us, but it's starting to be proactive about these things. And whether you're a project developer or just a holder of multiple projects, like, it's the proper time to like really dig in and start to ask your questions. Like, where do you see DeFi going? Okay, if this is the vision you have for DeFi, how are we going to get there? Can you find projects that like start to fit into that vision? What are the thought leaders of this space saying? What are the leaders of massive protocols saying? And you start to do your own research. You start to read more articles and really dig into like, what are the fundamentals of this space, and like, how can we properly build there without utilizing everyone that comes in as exit liquidity? Because when you're taking from the liquidity pool, that's essentially what you're doing. You're telling your community and your holders, you are exit liquidity for the project, and for me to keep building out this thing because I have no other streams of revenue, and that's a problem. And what I will also just say about Everown is, I understand that there are some developers out there that are like, oh, well, our community trusts us. Like, we don't need to like give up access to the smart contract. We need it because we're constantly doing developments, or, we don't want to lock the liquidity because there might be a time where we need access to it, whatever that may be, to move to another chain and all of that stuff. Everown's voting requirement is only a minimum of 24 hours. And I think like if you, if that is a problem for how you're running your project, then I think there's probably some internal examination of like, are we efficiently communicating to our community as a team? Because very, very rarely are there things that will communicate to you guys day of, like typically when we start to funnel out information, it's something that's already been heavily discussed. The entire team's aligned on it, and then it gets publicly sent out. And that takes time and preparation. And so that's all I'll say on that.
Yeah. Yeah, there's plenty of discussions about liquidity and reactionary discussions. Let's have some proactive discussions out there. So if you are a part of a Twitter space, people are asking for solutions, let them know. Solutions exist. Everyone.
Sorry to jump in, guys. We do only have less than 4 minutes left because at 3 we are starting the space for Enhance immediately. We have Yaz up here for a last question. Yaz, the floor is yours. How are you?
Good. How are you guys?
Good, thank you.
Hey,
I just had congratulations, TJ. By the way,
Thank you, friend.
no problem. I just have a quick question about the EverLaunch. Are you guys going to require projects to use EverOwn if they use EverLaunch?
No. Projects will be able to utilize EverLock as their liquidity locker and then upgrade to EverOwn from there.
Okay, sounds good. I mean,
Also, I do want to specify, like, yes, we have started work on EverLaunch, but it's still, we're just getting started. So that's currently the plan, if that makes sense.
as we get closer to the launch, so to speak, of EverLaunch, more information would be available. But yeah, of course, with Jen dropping the news today that Everlock will be simultaneously coming out with EverLaunch. That will be a utility for developers to lock their initial liquidity, and obviously then transition into EverOwn afterwards. But again, more information will come out as we get closer.
all right, sounds good. I'll wait for then. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I want to thank everyone who popped up and asked a question today in Twitter Spaces, on YouTube, on Discord, on Telegram. We appreciate it. You know where to find us. We will be back here tomorrow at 2 o'clock for the community chat. If you do have a question, feel free to bring it there. I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of the day, and I do ask that you kindly hang on and join us in 3 minutes when we welcome Enhance to the EverRise ecosystem. This space will shut down, and then we will immediately open a new one. Please feel free to join and support those who are doing right by their community. Jen, Jason, thank you guys very much for co-hosting this today with me, and I'll hand it over to you for any closing statements.
Jen, do you want to go first?
Sure. One, guys, I know I haven't been on these AMAs as much as I used to be, but just know I think exciting things are coming. I'm incredibly excited about the future of EverRise. I think Suresh's vision will transform this space, and I think other folks are starting to recognize that as well. And then for those of you who asked, I did post the granny socks in the main Telegram community chat. So if you're curious about the granny socks thing,
I've seen this. When granny socks? What is all this about?
My partner's grandmother for Christmas, I just found out like I think like months ago now, sent me a Christmas present that I didn't quite realize was mine, but in the card, as Hannah was reading it out, it was basically like, and here are some socks for Jen, just in case she ever needs to interview because she works like at Bitcoin or something like that.
She works at Bitcoin.
Yeah. So, and then the socks are like these blue striped socks with the most ridiculous face on them. And I was just telling the community the story, and I was like, I can never wear these socks. Like, it just doesn't work for me.
Around the house.
So, not even. No.
Not even it. Okay.
No.
Wow. I don't have any outrageous socks, unfortunately. I'm wearing pink socks at the moment, actually. But I'm not going to show that on camera. Thank you, everybody, again, for the support. I appreciate all of the retweets, the likes, sharing the information, all the educational stuff that's out there. We still get on these graphics as the most mentioned on Phantom, across most of the chains, if not all of the chains that we're on. So guys, that's a big testament to you. Like Jen said, we're building something very special here at EverRise. I'm just, again, excited for what the future holds. And, every week we've got the AMA. So keep asking us those questions. Thank you for the questions today, everybody. Even Lee with that one passionate question. Thank you.
Love it. Thank you guys very much. And I am reopening this space immediately for Enhance. We'll see you shortly.
Cheers.